Welcome back. I'm Amanda with Healthy House on the Block, and I'm here with our weekly video and tip on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness. This week, we're going to talk about what you do about areas that maybe you can't change. Maybe there are areas you don't have control over in terms of the feasibility to actually change these interior spots of your home, or maybe it's something with your budget or your time. Whatever the problem may be, there are actually ways that you can create a healthy home and reduce toxins in those spaces without having to do a full remodel or a total overhaul. Every single idea that I outlined here today may not be perfect for either your budget or your time constraints or your home as it's laid out or as it was built. So really think about each and every item that I outline and make sure that it works for you and your family. So I base my natural home changes on a few different basic areas of my life and home. The first is money. Some changes that you want to make to your home, whether it be a natural home improvement or not, are expensive. And sometimes the payoff may not be worth it in the end. And sometimes a really expensive change, such as changing out flooring or replacing drywall, may be an expensive replacement and may not be improving your natural home all that much. So, for example, if you were concerned about the toxins present in your furniture that contained particle board, you could replace your furniture with solid wood. This is a really expensive change, but would eliminate some VOCs from your home and from your air. Now, in the same breath, a less expensive change for your natural home could be getting rid of all of your plastic kitchen containers and replacing them with glass. This costs a lot less, but is still removing a toxin from your everyday life. So when it comes to any natural home change, I assess the amount of money I'll be spending to improve my space. It doesn't mean I won't make this change in the future if it's an expensive change, but it does mean I may budget for it in the future rather than make the change right away. Another thing I contemplate is stress. So some changes can add a lot of stress to your life. If your natural home improvement is updating your home from toxic carpeting to natural hardwood, this can add some stress to your home and your life while you're making this change. The natural home improvements that are larger in scale and more labor-intensive projects don't get skipped over, but there's definitely a time and a place for these. So as a family, we plan and we prepare for these changes and projects to make sure we are minimizing the amount of construction and dust being drummed up inside of the house. A natural home doesn't have to be perfect right away, and often it's a long journey and process to get it to where you want. Sometimes it may mean breaking a large project down into several really small projects. So for example, in our house, the kitchen is an area that will eventually be redone, but at the current moment, we're just tackling the flooring. This puts less stress on our home and our lifestyle, and eventually we'll upgrade our cabinets to a healthier option, but it just isn't something that we'll be taking on right now. And then the last area is lifestyle. So the changes you make to your home must align with your lifestyle. Families that have a more relaxed lifestyle at home are going to prioritize health and wellness changes differently than those with an on-the-go lifestyle. Both are completely easy to work with, but they will just look different to each household. So assess any changes you want to make and ask yourself if they will really be worth it for your current lifestyle. You should also note that lifestyle changes as your kids grow and change will change your priorities as well. So for example, a home with babies will make different changes to their natural home environment in comparison to a family that has older kids or no kids at all. So look at the things you're willing to sacrifice in the name of having a natural home, and be okay with deciding a particular change just isn't for your family. And then last, impact. Another area that I really try to focus on is just how much of a positive impact my debated change will really make on my health and wellness. So a natural home that's completely toxin-free really doesn't exist. But because the truth is, we will be exposed to toxins, and often they're within the four walls of our home. The goal is not to mitigate every toxin, but instead to minimize them as much as possible. So some home improvements will have a greater impact on the health and wellness of your natural home environment than others. For example, replacing all your vinyl windows, which can contain phthalates, VOCs, polyvinyl chloride, and other toxins, will likely reduce some toxin exposure within your home. Now, in the same breath, for a fraction of the price, you could install an air exchanger to improve the indoor air quality within your home. This type of improvement brings in natural, fresh air from outside and pushes the toxic air outside, drastically improving your environment. Both of these improvements will improve the indoor air quality within your natural home, but installing an air exchanger probably has a greater impact on the health of your home, especially when you're calculating that impact based on cost. So what do you do with areas that you may not be able to change, or that you think maybe you'll change in the future? There are a few steps that I go through with every project to really make sure that I am creating a healthy space even if I can't make the big changes that I want. So linked in this week's blog post, which I have in the description for you, I have a home project planning worksheet, and it is one of the worksheets that has helped my family and my clients plan things out for our healthy home. So the first thing we do is assess. We assess the project as a whole, and we go through the 4 areas that we talked about before: money, stress, lifestyle, and impact. I plug it into my home project planning worksheet to help me decide. I decide if this change will be worth it for me and my family, or if it just really doesn't make sense for us. The next step is to decide. So once I decide if it's a project we'd like to do or not, I really truly don't look back. I know that I can always change my mind later, but the decision I made is for a reason, and I know that I've gone through the project and analyzed it and assessed it to the best of my abilities. I really don't allow myself to feel guilty if it's a project that we just can't tackle. And if it's a change we've decided to make, then I head to the next steps to carefully plan it out. So the next step obviously is planning, and once we know we have a natural home improvement that we'll be tackling, that's the next step. We plan it out from the initial planning steps all the way down to the last detail. Now, it really helps us to know what supplies we will need. So we like to know those and who we will need to contact and how much something is going to cost us before we get going. From a true planner's point of view, this gives me such a sense of clarity and stability as we move through a project. And as someone who strives for a healthy, natural home, it gives me a great way to plan each and every material we'll use to make sure it's in alignment with my health and wellness goals for our home and our environment. Now, the last thing I have to throw in is there is the possibility that we will just table it. So if a project we've decided to forego is just that, I leave it. I don't let myself waffle back and forth too much. I analyze and then make the decision to move forward or not. And if I decide it is not right for right now, I either put it in a planner to do later, or I completely nix it altogether. I really don't let myself feel guilty. I know that I'm allowed to change my mind later, and I know that I've already made leaps and bounds in the changes we've made to our home and our home's health and wellness. I have to remind myself that every small step I make towards creating a healthy and natural home is really a step in the right direction, and it all adds up to a healthier environment. So finally, let's take a look at changing our habits. This could be a whole process in and of itself, especially if you have family members who maybe give you a little resistance on some of those habit changes. But there are ways that you can go about changing habits to create a healthier home and minimize the stress between family members. So each and every habit change that you make in your home means your family may have to change too. And sometimes making the transition can be seamless, and sometimes it requires a bit more planning. I like to envision that what this habit will look like long term if we decide it's for us, and this really helps my family move forward with the change. The other thing I like to ask myself is, will this be a sustainable change long term? Is this a change that my family can keep up with? If it's not something I'm certain we will do for the long haul, I think about just how much it would take to keep up with. Some of the things I ask myself are, is this something I can keep up for the long haul? Is this something that we are willing to do day in and day out to maintain this new lifestyle? It helps to do this so that we're not constantly implementing new habits that won't end up sticking. Nothing is more frustrating than trying to get everyone on board with a healthy habit or change and then falling off the wagon every single time. So assessing how sustainable it is beforehand can cut out a lot of your stress. And then we want to make a plan. So once we know we'll be trying to do something a little different in terms of our habits, we make a plan. Will it take some reminding to do this at first? Probably. You can use your phone or a calendar or sticky notes to remind you to do the things that you need to implement in your house. Most of the time, any change you make just takes several weeks before you have made it a habit and you don't have to think about it anymore. And then finally, I just want to reiterate, don't stress. If you're not going to make a change that you've thought about or you've assessed for whatever the reason, just be okay with your decision and move on. Don't stress about the changes you're missing out on. In another phase of your life, there may be more opportunity for this change to come about, and just remind yourself that you're moving in the right direction and any change that you make is a positive one. Don't get hung up on the items you aren't going to change right away. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you can take at least one idea from this week's video and blog post and implement it in your own healthy home. I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I'm here every single week with new ideas and new tips on creating an indoor space that truly supports your health and your wellness.